Good morning. Today is Wednesday, November 5th. This is Wake Up with KERA News, and I'm Andrew Garcia. Quiet and warm weather will continue through the rest of this week. Highs will be in the mid-80s. A weekend cold front will bring a return to much cooler weather. One small tweak to state rules for judges could affect how easily gay couples can get married in Texas. We'll learn more after the news. Texans approved all 17 proposed amendments to the state constitution, including 6 focused on property taxes. More from the Texas Newsroom's Blaze Gainey.
On Tuesday, voters approved increasing the homestead exemption for all homeowners to $140,000 and gave an additional $60,000 exemption to senior citizens and Texans with disabilities. Another measure created a property tax exemption for homeowners whose house is destroyed by a fire, as well as an exemption for certain widows of veterans. University of Houston political scientist Brandon Rottinghouse says it's not surprising that all 17 proposed amendments passed.
Voters look at this as kind of a referendum on what's already been decided. So there's not as much scrutiny often as they might in a different kind of context, especially in the context of an election with a candidate. So we're likely to see these pass.
Voters also approved a tax break to landlords and business owners, and Texans who live along the southern border will get a property tax break for border security-related building projects on their land. I'm Blaze Gainey in Austin.
Residents in Farmers Branch and Highland Park are set to vote next year on whether their cities should leave Dallas area rapid transit. KERA's Dylan Duke reports the cities will hold special withdrawal elections in May.
All 13 of DART's member cities contribute 1% of their sales tax to the agency, but Farmers Branch and Highland Park are among the 7 that pay more into the system than they get in services. Farmers Branch Mayor Terry Lynn said that model no longer works.
Various residents, depending on who you ask, are going to say, well, what do we have to show for it? We got a train station. Maybe there's a dozen cars over there in the morning, if we're lucky.
Residents said many people depend on public transportation and would have no alternative if DART left. Both cities said they have the option to cancel holding the elections. For KERA News, I'm Dylan Duke in Farmers Branch.
One small tweak to state rules for judges could affect how easily gay couples can get married in Texas. The Texas Supreme Court says judges who won't perform certain weddings because of their religious beliefs won't face state sanctions. But that could have broader consequences for both judges and couples. KERA's Becca Moore spoke with law and justice reporter Tolawani Osibamowo to understand why.
So Tolawani, the Texas Supreme Court made this clarification pretty quietly. Was it prompted by anything specific?
Well, the Texas Supreme Court won't say why the change was made, but what we do know from the broader context is that this is an issue the High Court has dealt with before. So back in 2019, the State Commission on Judicial Conduct issued a public warning against Justice of the Peace, Dianne Hensley. It was because she spoke to the press and publicly discussed her refusal to marry gay couples while still marrying straight ones. The commission said this cast doubt on her ability to seem impartial as a judge. The Texas Supreme Court, though, ruled that she does have standing to sue the commission over that, and the board ultimately withdrew its warning against her soon after. But before that, a county judge in North Texas sued the state's Judicial Conduct Board in 2020. He said he was worried about facing that same state discipline because he has publicly opposed gay marriage, and his federal lawsuit went up to the Fifth Circuit, and that court asked the Texas Supreme Court to decide, does it violate judicial conduct rules for judges to publicly refuse to marry gay couples based on their religious beliefs? And the court hasn't answered that question in court documents, but this new comment relates to that very same part of the law.
So is this new rule going to conflict at all with the fact that gay marriage is still legal in the United States?
Well, someone could make that argument. What the Texas Supreme Court did was carve out a religious exemption that protects judges from being subject to discipline from the state board that regulates that field. But the comment does not protect a judge from facing a potential court challenge, arguing that the choice not to marry a certain couple violates that couple's constitutional rights, specifically those protected by the 2015 U.S. Supreme Court case Obergefell versus Hodges. I talked to David Cole, who's an attorney here in Dallas, us about the Equal Protection Clause in the 14th Amendment, which says you have to treat people equally under the law.
There's a big problem constitutionally in the Equal Protection Clause if I say I'm going to do it for this category of people, but not this category of people. And I think that's where the legal disputes about this issue are going to start going.
It might be too early to tell, but those legal disputes are possible.
What does all this mean for gay couples in Texas?
Well, the most recent census data shows us that there were more than 100,000 same-sex couples in Texas, and a little over half of them were married. But it's hard to know exactly how many gay couples are looking to get married in Texas, and therefore how many people this would affect. Attorney Chad Ruback says it'll most likely depend on where people are trying to get married.
I think it's going to be nothing more than a delay of a few minutes for a same-sex couple wanting to get married at the Dallas County Courthouse, for example, even if one judge declines to perform a wedding for them. On the other hand, in rural East Texas or rural West Texas, it might be a much more significant inconvenience.
It's also worth noting that the court's comment doesn't explicitly mention gay marriage, even though that's definitely implied. If a judge could prove that they have a sincerely held religious belief, then in theory, the high court's decision could affect interfaith couples or even interracial couples. Now, whether anyone would take it that far remains to be seen.
Explore East Dallas on Saturday and discover art, creative activities, artist talks, and live music at the second annual Art Walk East. The free event features talented local artists from neighborhoods throughout East Dallas and takes place in multiple venues, including Art on Main, East Dallas Vintage, Paper Arts on Peak, and multiple home studios. To see details and more arts events, head to the Go See DFW calendar at keranews.org/calendar. Thank you for listening to Wake Up with KERA News. I'm your host, Andrew Garcia. Before we wrap up today's episode, we've got a couple updates to make sure you've heard. KERA is going to be winding down this podcast starting today, Wednesday, November 5th. But be sure not to go anywhere. Our team is working on some really exciting new ideas on ways to keep you connected to North Texas news and our community. As we work on these projects, we'd love to hear from you. We want you to be a part of this process. If you'd like to stay connected with our team and share your feedback and ideas, email marketing@kera.org and we'll be in touch soon. Finally, one more update. It's really bittersweet to share that I'll be leaving KERA for a new position back in my home state of California. My wife and I will get to be much closer to our family, but we'll also be sadly leaving this amazing North Texas community and all of the dedicated listeners who help make KERA the vibrant public service that it is. Today is my last day on air, but don't fret, you'll be hearing from familiar voices on KERA News for a while, and I know you'll give a big Texas welcome to the next morning host, just like you gave one to me when I first started. For one final time, I'm Andrew Garcia. You're listening to KERA News.